Why it's not starting to record. Microsoft is gonna have the best of me. Oh, it's recording. Okay, so the welcome everybody, and the discussion last time was, as I said, about how this is a huge topic. What exactly we're going to look at it, and the focus for us is going to be to put it in the context of this project, which is we're looking to have deliverables from this project that would provide assistance to people who are trying to improve processes, who are trying to apply new technologies, who are trying to make improvements in their utilities. So we may not be able to look at all the different wonderful aspects of culture, but what we can do is we can say, as we go and look at these improvements, whether it's applying new technology, there's always concern about the organizational buy-in. When we're changing the processes or the governance, perhaps, there's always concern how it's going to impact people, how are we going to get them supported. So we're going to look at organizational culture within that a little bit more limited concept, to make it practical, so that the results of our work on this topic fit with the efforts of people who are trying to improve capital improvement program, who are trying to establish better business case evaluation, who are trying to manage risk. So our quote people topics, which is workforce change management, and our intention is really to provide some guidelines that would make it easier for people to make these changes, to improve their KPIs, but also to make the organizations a better place to live and work and so forth. So I'm going to stop at this point and see if there are any questions about this clarification, or if this makes sense. These meetings are far better if other people talk. So otherwise, I'm going to start calling on people if you don't offer some. I don't see any hands up. Come on, I want to see some hands up. Imagine that you're at a rock concert or something, and you have, everybody's doing whatever they're doing. How's that? So Nina, thank you.
My pleasure. Good morning. I just want to say that it makes perfect sense, maybe because we went over this for the workforce group last time. So, yes. But this is helpful. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So, the other questions that we had was from Joseph from Baltimore, who said that they have defined two things. One is the vision, what would they like their culture to be, and the other one was like anti-vision. What is it that we don't want to be? So I think this connects to two things that we've done on other topics, such as asset management and all the risk. We started our work on those topics by defining what are the challenges. When you're doing asset management, what are the things that you are having trouble with? Or when you're doing a new CIP, what are the things? And the answers, so they provided a list of challenges. They also provided a list of goals, what we would like to have. So I would suggest that as we approach organizational culture, it may be helpful for us to identify some challenges so we understand what is it. So if we come up with new proposals or solutions, so we say, is it addressing these challenges? So we will have, we'll talk about this there's a spreadsheet that I'll put up later. The other thing that was brought up was one person said, where is everybody trying to go? It was a question, can you guys, I would like to learn what other people are trying to achieve. So what we've mentioned last time, and I've noticed that only a couple of utilities have posted some artifacts and saying, well, this is what we're doing, this and so forth. But I think that that reveals a desire from utilities to learn from each other. So, for example, somebody in Kansas City can say, oh, okay, this is what Metro Vancouver is doing. This looks interesting. We could maybe. So we found that that aspect works really well worked really well in other topics that we've addressed that were more technical. So what I would like to do is encourage you to look for stuff that is in your organization that you think is valuable, something that you've done, whether it's a PowerPoint presentation, report, or whatever, that that was helpful, or something that wasn't, even if it wasn't helpful. So that was also from the last call. So the other questions that were raised, and so let me stop at that. Are there any comments about that, the challenges and the goals? Are there any comments or things that would somebody would like to comment or bring up? Okay. Should I interpret this that nobody has any challenges, or how should I interpret this?
Hey, Cello, it's Paul. Just want to say that I think most utilities who have signed on are seeking that utopian goal of continuous improvement within their organizations. And to achieve that improvement, whether it be incremental improvements or transformational improvements, it's really fueled by staff. It's really fueled by people. And, you know, and the type of organizational culture that's been established by the leadership group within the organization really sets a tone on whether or not the improvement initiatives are forced upon staff from top down, or if it's ingrained within everything that staff does. So I think everyone recognizes the importance of organizational culture, and that everyone's hoping that there are going to be golden nuggets out of this sharing of information so that we can all improve our respective organizations.
Yeah, thank you. I think, you know, you did mention several things that are important. Continuous improvement, we can, you know, that it has to be fueled by staff, that starts from leadership, and that it's not top down. And I think that there was a sense last time that we have to make this practical, we have to make this tangible, we have to make this helpful to people who are trying to make change. So I thought that you know, that was really good. So that's what happened last time. This is, you know, that we're going to build on. There were also questions, where do we look for examples? There were different ideas on that, on what is working versus what is not working. And there was also some suggestion about a method called appreciative inquiry, which is a certain way to look at organizational change. So I'll stop at that. That was a brief recap of what happened last time and the things that we the things that were mentioned in the last meeting. So that I'm going to stop now. And Paul, or did you want to add something to that?
I think Mert has his hands up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Cello. So I want to add something. So out of everything we've discussed today in this project, as far as I've worked on it, this one is the most difficult for me to sort of, grasp and see how it's going to arc into the future and what is a final decent deliverable is going to look like. I'm having the most trouble with this. Out of everything, really. So probably need to spend a little more time to set our sort of expectations, what we want to get out of this at the end, maybe just a little bit more so than others. So in that light, I was thinking to make it practical, Cello, like you were saying. I don't know if it's basically like sets of it may be a simple sort of sets of practices that people have used during their change management work when they were probably trying to bring a new concept to the organization or a new tool or whatever it may be. And perhaps we could all go back and do some inner thinking about what traits of our culture helped and what traits of our culture hurt that process. And I'm not saying it's more like a case study or anything, but I think that sort of thinking probably has clues as to, what is that ideal utopic culture, is. If, of course, it should be adaptable to some extent. So it's not like it's this rigid sets of traits, but that's sort of how I'm trying to sort of imagine how this might go. Having a little difficult time, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's having a difficult time. And Joseph is got his hand up, just to try to answer your question, is that in my mind, to try to tackle this entire thing is too much. But if we can find little things that can be done, examples, and in my mind, there are several components that we will require to address the whole problem. But we can have some practical examples and things that can be done to make organizations better and to help us get the work done would be sort of practical goal. Let's go to Joseph because he had some really insightful comments last time as well, and his hands up.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think to echo what Mert just said, for me, this is I almost look at this group as a support group because the process is very painful, and from time to time, I think I'll look forward to just being able to exchange ideas and whatnot. But one thing that I've found, because in our organization, the number of the types of employees run the gamut. We have employees that are laborers, so no formal education, for instance, all the way to PhDs. So the needs and the motivations of such a diverse workforce are just as diverse, right? And so how do you how do you go about establishing a culture that's positive, nurturing, and thriving? But one thing, in the short time that I've been here now, a year and a couple of months, I think trust building is the very first thing that any of us really should focus on, because without trust, you can forget about all the fancy, hard HBR articles that you want to bring into a conversation or ideas and what have you. Nobody's going to listen and follow through. So so I've just kind of, in the time that I've been here, I've kind of slowed myself down recently to say, okay, let me just focus on that. Let me just focus on building and actually communicating at everybody's level to the greatest extent possible, and then build that. That's the building block to accomplishing the change that we're all talking about, setting the culture.
It's an excellent point, and I'm delighted to hear that, because this new publication that we're putting together to as this is going to merge to WEF, that is one of the things. And if we look at Pat Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of the team, the bottom layer is trust. And I think it's an enormously important thing. It sounds simple, but it's really important. And I can actually see, I've seen in 40 years very strong examples of the impact. And there are some things that we do that build trust, and some things, like you said last time, that erode trust. I think if we can identify some tangible things that it really helps overall. And let me digress just a little bit. Most of my career has been in operational technology, which means bringing technology to the kind of production floor, into treatment plants, sewer systems, and so forth. And I learned very quickly that any operator can make, I'm not nearly smart enough to build a control system that an operator cannot sabotage or and they can make it work, they can make it not work. So to get to that trust and support has been absolutely essential to get anything done. So it's a really great comment. So we cannot solve all the problems, but if we can at least identify some challenges and identify some strategies, how do you build trust? If we have some if we have some methodology to assess, is there trust or is there no trust? Those are the things that could be helpful. And it is the most difficult topic of all. I agree with Mert, but also when you go and talk to people who deal with technology, for me, the easiest part, when you ask them, what is your biggest problem? They always say, well, it's people, processes, and organizational culture. I work on a different project as well. I'm the co-lead on the smart utilities, and where mostly it's defined in terms of technology. And they tell you about all these different new technologies. And at the end they say, well, but actually the stuff that's most important is the organizational issues and people, and whether there's trust. So that is an excellent point. So I want to Paul and Zonetta, I think, had an emergency call. So did you want to? I don't want to mess up our sticking to the agenda. Did you want to move forward to the tasks, or what do you want to do?
Sure. So before everyone signed on, Cello and I chatted about the overall objective of this particular meeting. And, I kind of look at the 5 tasks, which I'm understanding are similar across the 3 people topic areas. But for this particular meeting, I thought what's actually in the slide deck is the objective of getting a common language on what organizational culture means. And this is something that Mark had put together, and he grabbed some references from Edgar Shane, and linked to the YouTube. And I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to see that. I think it's about an 8-minute YouTube video where Edgar talks about organizational culture and what it means. Cello, if you can move to the next slide. I'm not sure if we're going to run the entire video. It's an 8-minute video, and I'm seeing, I'm seeing some people indicating that they have viewed the video. I myself did as well. And an overview of what Edgar was talking about is provided by Mark in this PowerPoint in front of you,
Okay.
where he talks about the artifacts, espoused values, and assumptions and beliefs. And that artifacts are essentially the visible part of organizational culture, and it's what's stated in your mission, visions, whatever's hanging on your walls, and that is part of organizational culture. And then the espoused values are essentially below that, and then the assumptions and beliefs are definitely unwritten, and you can probably only figure out the assumptions and beliefs within an organization after you sort of lived in it for a while. You get a sense of whether or not you're going to be openly sharing ideas with top brass in the organization. If no one's doing it, then that's part of the organizational culture that's been established. And so if you haven't had a chance to watch the video, please, on your time, go and take a look at that. So Cello, could you monitor some of the chats coming in, and maybe we can ask people to speak on some of the comments they're providing.
Yes, I'm monitoring the chat line, and there's one person liked the video and liked the concept of occupational cultures, which is really good. So this is true, and this is actually the book where this thing comes from, and it is this idea that of layers of culture is kind of related to some other work at MIT Sloan, which is Chris Argyris, another brilliant mind, and his ladder of inference, because people seem, there's a similar stack for how people actually make decisions and act. So this green stuff is sort of the organizational subconscious, this kind of things that nobody talks about, but everybody knows what the rules are, and that's what really drives. And in our broader model, the role of organizational culture is something that Paul has mentioned, continuous improvement and learning. That is the part what we would want to look at is what stuff in this green bubble keeps us from learning? What assumptions and rules that everybody follows would keep us from learning, keep us from improving, and so forth. So we can open it up for discussion and see if there are any comments or raised hands. Josef, your hand is still up. Anything you wanted to share?
Sorry, I didn't mean to have it up.
Okay. Mert?
Yeah, it's and I apologize. I have to run in 2 minutes, but this resonated with me a little bit, the video and some of the concepts, because utilities generally are, we do a lot of things like design and construction being closely related but different, and among all the other things we have to do. So and I don't think it's necessarily surprising, because we have, most of us suffer from these silos and associated, communication issues that come from that. We are not like a lean startup with like 6 employees that can just yell across the room to each other. So, that concept of, having silos of different cultures, and how sometimes, the prominent features of each of those cultures are in conflict in certain things when it comes to the way we communicate and the way we care and think about the most, and that is also a bit of a challenge here. I remember reading stories. This one employee posted, she was joining to a party as a translator to other 5 other people in her company, and they were flying international to originally where she was from. And these executives all got their, first class seats and stuck her in economy class because she was like a junior employee, and she was expected to basically arrange for all of their logistics in that foreign country. So that sort of, like these sorts of things are, I think, are good examples of what a nurturing, I'm sure they want to say things like, oh, we nurture our employees in their mission statements, but these sorts of things are examples as to how some of those lower levels in this model here on the screen are not necessarily practiced. So I think we can probably find a lot of examples in our work. I think private sector is more ripe with examples because we tend to be more nonprofit. So we don't have to worry about revenue as much as perhaps a private company would. But I don't know. These are just some of the things that are coming to my mind as I have to sort of bail out of this meeting with apologies.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mert. Thank you very much, Mert. Paul, did you? Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Oh, this is just Yvonne. I just wanted to say that this resonated with me, and it's just nice to be able to have words to describe this. Like, I know and have documented the first two bubbles, but then we know there's something that maybe keeps us from really fulfilling these things at the top. And so the unwritten rules or assumptions and beliefs, like just naming that, I think is helpful. So I liked that. And then I put in the chat as well, just that some of that plays into the fact, and maybe it's just an interesting kind of dynamic for utilities that have just such a wide range of occupations that maybe that sort of sometimes plays into this as well, that we're just all coming from so many different backgrounds that could influence our assumptions and beliefs.
Well, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you. What I think would be very helpful for us, I'm not sure if it's on the agenda, but to discuss what we would like to do between now and the next meeting, and also what we would present and discuss at the next meeting. I think that was the last item on the agenda. But as far as the slides, Paul, you want me to go to the next slide if you wanted to maybe talk about the organizational maturity models? I know that you guys have used some.
Okay, so Cello, before we leave that,
yeah.
In the background, the team leads, that's Mark, Zanetta, myself, Cello, we had some offline discussion regarding alternative models. And just like anything else in business, there's no one single way of doing it, and there is no one size fits all. And there are many different models that we can take a look at. And one thought was maybe we should take a look at one or two other models. And I just want to mention the one that we gravitated towards here at Metro is the one provided by Cameron and Quinn. And it's called a Competing Values Framework. And one of the ideas within the Competing Values Framework applied to organizational culture is it's provided in quadrants. And so that, yeah, that's fantastic. That's exactly Cameron and Quinn's model. And we kind of liked the model because it's indicating that depending on the nature of what your business is and the motivations of that with the business environment, different types of organizational cultures are most suited for various types of businesses. And I think in many utilities in the water and wastewater business, they're operating under a highly hierarchical sort of setup where there's a commander-in-chief sort of at the very top, and then you have the chain of command all the way down to the bottom, as it were. And Metro Vancouver is definitely a hierarchy. And there's ways to actually measure your organizational culture through running through, I think, what was it, maybe about 20 to 30 questions that you can answer. And after answering the questions, you can actually get a radar plot where your culture is. So is it a hierarchy? Is it a ad hoc type of organization, which is a diametric opposite of a hierarchy, meaning that, you know, that's more in the high-tech realm where, you know, the companies like Google or Tesla, anything in the very fast-moving, fast-paced market sort of environment that they operate on. And they're saying that an ad hoc culture works best in that environment. And then market-based would be, you know, companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, where they're competing against each other, and it's a very competitive marketplace. And organizational culture that they describe as a market-based dog-eat-dog sort of culture might be appropriate for that environment. And then there's the a little bit more family-oriented, clan-based culture, and some of the examples come from Japan, where there's a lot of sharing of your personal life in your work life in a clan-based sort of organizational culture. And that at Metro Vancouver, that sort of framework helped with our description of what we were at. And I think when we plotted our radar charts, it was very much centered on hierarchy. And in terms of all the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous things that we see in our future, we thought that we needed to shift our culture a little bit more towards the ad hoc arena, where we got a little bit more innovation, adaptation to meet these challenges. And so some of the efforts for us was really about how do we go about shifting, you know, what kinds of activities, what kind of behaviors can leadership express so that we start shifting our culture a little bit more towards that innovation. Yeah, and I see Nina has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add in, one of the challenges that I face is that we also see an organizational culture, but we also see division or departmental cultures that are very different. So I work in people and talent, human resources, and so that culture is very different than, you know, what you're going to see in the engineering department or in fleet. And one of the challenges that we face is sometimes we're so siloed in the way that we are working for the organization. It sometimes can be that we're working for a completely different organization. And I'm not sure that, you know, the culture of people and talent isn't going to be the right culture for engineering or for our capital improvement programs.
I think this is a very interesting discussion. What I wanted to offer, if that, I cannot see because of the way my screen is and because what I'm trying to record. I wanted to show something that comes from a paper that from the Utility Management Conference. One of the reasons why this hierarchy is so important. This is from Frederick Laloux's evolutionary model of organizational cultures. And you can see that this one, starts with different models. So this adhocracy is on this level here. And this zooming in on the model that's dominant in public utilities, it's really in government organizations, public schools, and even traditional churches. It comes from early examples. The one was Greek phalanx. It was it was the father of Alexander the Great who invented the phalanx, and there was strict rules. And if you think about it, and then the same was true for the Roman legion. There are strict rules, the size of the shield, how you lined up, the length of the sword, the length of the spear in both formations. So if you look at the characteristics of these formations, they were hierarchical, stable, formal rules, risk-averse, clear roles and job descriptions, and strength comes from an organization. These formations were able to defeat a far stronger enemy, and it's top-down command and control. Does this sound familiar? This is still a model that's dominated, that's dominated. So when we look at private industry, there are different levels. There are 3 levels here. So when we compare ourselves to private industry, we have to be careful because even within private industry, within the same company, they may go through different evolutionary phases. This is just some thoughts on how deep this stuff can go. So if you'd like, I can share this paper included in one of the references that we've done. In this paper, I was trying to show why technology silos happen. And the title of the paper was "The Technology Silos Are in Your Organizational DNA." So just a small digression before we go back to our agenda. And just in the interest of, maybe because I spent some time teaching, I really like for us to have some homework and a real clear objective what we're going to do next time at the next call. So I don't know if I need to go and explain this and how it relates. So let me just see, where is the agenda? Sorry, go ahead. So
Cello, Abby asks for sharing of that presentation that you were showing briefly. And yes. It might help if you provide a link in the chat. I noticed that the chats of these calls are actually recorded in Microsoft Teams environment. So it'd be nice to have any of the references discussed at these meetings and a little link provided. Then we can go back and easily find the reference.
Yes, let me just share something else very quickly. And it's not going to be a paper, but just to address this question. And I tried to make this as easy as possible. Can everybody see my Microsoft Teams screen? Let me know.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in the organizational culture channel, and you will see that there are some tabs here. These 2 posted files are default, but then it's workspace and references. So if you click on that, you will go to OneDrive that will give you a list in this spreadsheet of references that have been posted already in terms of, assessment methods, We will then include a folder on Cameron Quinn, a folder on trust, building trust. This is, Joseph, you can see that why this really resonated with me. And then methodology from Hofstede, from Globe, the organizational culture inventory, and a number of references. The paper that I showed is in a different place in OneDrive, but it's already available to you, but it's in OneDrive. It's not as easily available. And I'll make sure that you get a link. And if you let me just work on that and see how I can provide this to you in the best possible way. Does that help?
Yeah,
Does
that's
it?
helpful to me.
Okay.
I had actually looked under the files tab, so instead of references, so that helped.
Okay. Yes, and so I will share that we had a session dedicated to this project at the last, so it's in the proceedings of the Utility Management Conference in 2020, and we also had this one paper on organization, culture, and technology silos. So I'll go back to sharing the agenda. Sorry for jumping around. I was just trying to anticipate things. So we did talk about a little bit about sources, and if you'd like to share artifacts, that would be really excellent. And if it's okay with Paul and Zonetta, I'd like to maybe spend a couple of minutes talking about what to do between now and the next call and how we can organize the next call. Is that okay with everybody? Or should I ask?
No, that's fine. I wanted also to tell you I had to apologize. I had a work emergency, so I had to walk away. So if you called my name over the last 10 or 15 minutes.
I called it 4 times, Zonetta. I called it 4 times, and you.
Oh, wow.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I apologize, but no, I think that would be the route to go, is to try to think about what we want to do. Dr. Tello, and this is just something that I would maybe suggest that we may be able to try to do, because I know we've had some brief conversations, but I would like to see, just to throw this out here, is that maybe we can formulate just a quick, 5 or 6 questions that we can kind of formulate to ask everybody what the expectation is, where they are as far as the maturity model, and that type of thing, and what they would like to try to get out of this effort. And I don't know if we have that someplace already, or do we want to try to see if we can do that to kind of formulate a strategy and a process within our own facility.
That's a great question.
Wanted to go.
That's really good, Zonetta, and I will work with you offline unless somebody has an idea to prepare a survey and send it out to the team. Okay. I'm just writing things down the old way. Okay, I'll work with you on preparing a survey like that and sending it out.
And that was how does everybody else feel about that that's on the call? Do y'all think that'd be a worthwhile effort to try to focus where we want to go next? I see Abby shaking her head.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
thank you.
So the other thing that I was going to propose is, this is what the spreadsheet looks like. I think it'll be, as we're looking for answers, it'd be good to maybe at least have some questions. And if we could get from people, if everybody adds like 1 or 2, we'd have a list of challenges that are business challenges, for example, that are where the difficulties are coming from, or the organizational side. Like on the left side is, let me throw an example, implementing a new control system, and then describe the difficulty. Why is that? Are there difficulties related to organizational culture that are making it are there issues related to the organization that are organizational culture that are making it difficult to implement this control? So that we have a list of things that you're trying to do with your business, kind of core functions, and then why is it? And then you can say whether this challenge is internal or external. Whether external could be, a change in regulations or COVID or something like that. And then the challenge is, working from home, and the difficulty is, are there some cultural reasons why you're having difficulties with this? And then whether it's really with that there's a lack of process, you're missing technology, or whether it's purely people issues. Most of them may be people. But if we could have a list of challenges like that, we would get a better, more kind of grounded sense of what kind of problems our work could address. Are there any comments on this? Does this make sense? Yvonne?
When I see Caroline has her hand up, actually.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And I can go after Caroline.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, I just have a question, Cello. Because of one of your previous presentations when we were just starting the UAIM project, this table reminded me, and what you've just been talking about reminded me of the process that you described earlier that brought us to this point of having the 3 people topics, and that the utility partners had exactly gone through this to name their challenges, and which is how we ended up with so many check marks under the people column, and thus the creation of the 3 people streams. So I'm just wondering if there's something we can learn there from the work that's already been done, in terms of have challenges already been described from all the other utility partners, and the nature of those challenges, if we can capitalize on the thinking and the collection of ideas that have been done at that point.
Yeah, we absolutely can do that. And what I can do is I can post these things so everybody can see them. So if something's on the list, you can just mark it up and say it's already on the list or refer to it. If something is not on the list, you can just add it. Because the reason that we did it is because we wanted to make sure that as we go forward that we're addressing real concerns and issues. So yeah, I will write a note to myself. And I think Yvonne has a hand up as well, yeah.
Oh, I just was going to say, I think one of the things that also stuck with me from the video was, and I was realizing, I was like, I should do more of these videos, because it's like 8 minutes of, when you're a busy person, it's like, oh, I just can watch something for 8 minutes and absorb a bunch of things. But I think there was a comment that he made about that culture is this big term, and I think that's come up a little bit today too, and it feels hard to know what to do. So just to say that I think this exercise, and if we already have some things already identified, that's perfect. But I think it's helpful to ground us a bit in what are the specifics of the challenge. So it's just to echo, this is a good idea, and but if we already have some things already identified, it'd be good to leverage that as well.
Thank you. That's exactly, and I was flashing this earlier. That is really an excellent book by the person who in the video. And what he is saying is that we have to start with behaviors, and because behaviors are a reflection of culture. So we start with behaviors instead of trying to change, the culture immediately. And as we can change with our actions the behaviors, and once the behaviors become established and they become that bottom layer that everybody does, then we've changed the culture. But to try to change this stuff, just trying to make it manageable, make the project manageable. And Mia, did you have a hand up as well? Maybe it's Amanda.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay, sorry. Any other thoughts? Okay. Okay.
Caroline's, it looks like Caroline's hand is back up.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I just wanted to also say that what had resonated me with that video too is his comment about the culture topic is so big and that it's difficult to talk about it in and of itself, that the importance of actually having like a change goal. I don't think that was what his words were, but along those lines, and to really narrow in on what it is you need to change. And I think that in this group, it may very well be that those things are different for every organization, even if there are commonalities because we're in the same industry and we may be starting with similar cultures and all of the things that everyone else has mentioned in terms of silos and different cultures within the organization, the diversity of the workforce, and that traditionally we come from a very hierarchical one. So we may have general commonalities, but we may, in each organization, have a very different change goal, which may require different approaches or different specifics about how you're actually going to try and implement culture change. And I will add just one more thing too, is when Joseph was talking about the trust, so far, the things that we've been trying to do and learn at Metro Vancouver has also been giving us that same message, that one of our most fundamental things that we have to address is the trust issue.
Okay. Well, I think what I wanted to have is some homework, and I have homework to do the survey. We'll work with Zanetta and Paul and Mark to do that. We'll also make available the previous challenges that have been identified. As far as the next call, what I would propose is that we can think about maybe one or more utilities saying, okay, these are the things that we have experienced as far as organizational change, and these are the things that we may be doing about it, or what methodologies they're thinking about using, or whatever, so that we have a little bit more speaking time for, or as much as we can, from utilities sharing their, stories and things, and and I'm hoping for a lot less sort of one person talking to everybody else, but more coming from utility partners providing content that's really meaningful for them. Is anybody opposed to this? Okay.
You got a hand up, Cello. Dr. Cello.
Where is it? Yvonne, you have a hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put it down.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
No need to apologize. Want to make sure we didn't miss you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have only 4 minutes left. Zanetta, Paul, anything else you'd like to share?
No, nothing from me. Thanks.
Zanetta, anything?
No, I think we need to take what we have, Dr. Cello, and maybe if some of the utilities want to volunteer based on what Cello's talking about, would like to present some of their challenges, to send us a quick email so we can do that. And then in probably about in a week, we'll send out a proposed agenda and then get you guys feedback on if that's the direction we want to go. We've got such a short period of time. We've got some ideas. I've written those down, and maybe, summarize some of those, what Ms. Burka has said about those already presented. I think, Dr. Cello, it's good to be able to tell people where they are, but maybe we take some time to highlight some of those in the hour that we have, and then have a couple people to present.
That's really excellent. Just want to point, among the references that are posted is a previous WRF report on organizational culture. So it is there. And so if you don't want to read all these other things that are posted there and different frameworks, I think that's one place that comes from the water sector, that comes from the Water Research Foundation, and it talks about the organizational culture. I think it would be informative to kind of maybe start with that one. So at this point, I have one more chance to, if people want to add something before we go. I want to be respectful to everybody's schedule.
I see a hand up.
Oh, Fred.
Hey, I just have a quick comment here. Just the slide we're looking at for organizational challenges. I think that's part of our homework, and I don't know if it's going to be worthwhile to clarify the column where it says describe the difficulties in responding to this challenge, to be more specific in describing the some of the behaviors that are causing our challenges, right? Because I think the gentleman in that video talked about, and I think Catherine mentioned, focus on a goal, or a problem. And it's true that every utility, every organization have different problems, but there's a good chance that some of these problems are all coming back to the similar behaviors, because at the end of the day, we want to look for some consistency, to address some of the same things. The problems will be different, but I strongly suspect, the behaviors, if they are similar, right, then a particular model may be effective in dealing with a certain behavior. Then it doesn't matter what problem it is. If that problem is stemming from that behavior, then that specific model will be effective. So I was just trying to look for ways to drive it back to some consistency.
Is this better? Describe the behaviors that impact response to this challenge.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. So we'll change it. We'll change it. And perhaps these three things columns may be redundant, since we're in I always try to put things on people, process, and technology, but maybe they're redundant because we're talking about the organizational culture. So maybe it'd be simpler if we just eliminate these three columns. Any thoughts on yes or no? Fred?
I don't know. I don't know how others feel. I think for now, maybe worthwhile. I'm just thinking out loud here.
How about this? I will change this. I will change this to strategic, tactical, and operational to see what level.
Yeah.
Our so that we can see what level are we talking about, so we can also see where our challenges are in that matrix. Is that better, Fred?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Abby.
I was just going to say, the version that Mark sent out earlier with the spreadsheet is different.
Yeah, it's different because I updated it. We're going back and forth, and the version that ended up in the slide is not the last version. Mark was consolidating the information for the slide. It's different, but we'll keep it the way it is on the screen right now.
Okay, because on that one it had staff management and executive management.
That's correct. Yes, yes, and I was just trying to remember how I changed the spreadsheet. It was we were a little bit late putting the slides together and everything. So in a scramble, that's we kind of. But I'll get it. I'll get it straightened out. That makes sense. So this it's staff management and executive management. Is that it, Abby?
Sorry, just yeah, it's staff management and executive management.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the changes that I made because people, process, technology didn't make any sense, and I was cutting and pasting, and a spreadsheet will look cleaner. So anyway, appreciate everybody's time. I'll post the video to our thing, and thanks especially to Paul and Zanetta and Mark, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.